Hi, I'm Henry Howe. I work for Lance Stroll as his trainer and therapist here at Aston Martin Formula One team, and we're going to go through some of the stuff that Lance uses every session with his kit and talk a little bit about why it's so important.
All right, let's start with the helmet. So what is the Hans device and why is it so critical for a driver to have one?
The Hans device is actually quite old now. Took a few years to develop, obviously, but came in 1989. The main purpose of it is to reduce cervical spine, skull and brain injuries. Essentially how it works is, obviously it goes behind the driver's neck, and then the seat belts come over the top of the hands and they anchor the driver into the car. And then as you can see, they're anchored onto the helmet in a way that essentially, if you imagine if the whole body in the car are moving this way and the car suddenly stops and the head comes forward, it's kind of limited how much it can move, and that's kind of working both ways.
For training with Lance in particular, what do you mostly do with it?
The driver's neck, as it were, is a bit of a focus in any athletic program for motorsport. I think like in a lot of sports you'll have people who sit on an end of the continuum whereby they have to train their neck a lot, whether or not they've got a kind of anatomically very long neck. Maybe they've had historic injuries, so like the prehab is training that they have to do all throughout the season. Lance, I would say, has got a good neck, just knock on wood. You know, he puts on muscle very easily. The muscle bulk generally maintains throughout the season. If anything, it develops with sessions in the car. There's an element with their strength that, to be honest with you, it just develops and progresses as they go through the junior formulas. So obviously as the cars get faster and more downforce on the car, they're having to tolerate more as you go, and that's a bit like a training program, isn't it, whereby you try and do a bit more as you go. For sure, Bahrain testing is always tough, and you know, we're training in January and February just to try and wake up the neck a little bit and just remind the nervous system, musculoskeletal system of the sorts of forces that they're having to tolerate. But yeah, fortunately for Lance, throughout the season we don't have to do an awful lot. Because bear in mind they're 5 sessions a weekend, 24 weekends a year. It's kind of a lot already.
How difficult is it to get cooler air in there and to try and keep him as cool as possible?
I mean, impossible really. Obviously underneath all of this is a balaclava. You probably saw in Qatar some of the onboards, like some of the drivers just in desperation opening their visors, but it's then just hot air hitting your face, isn't it? So it's very, very difficult. Particularly, you know, we go to places that can be very hot. You know, even some of those late June, July races, like we're expecting Barcelona to be really tough this year because it's a bit later. You still get really dry heat there. You know, track temperatures 60 degrees plus. It's just not the same as when you're having to compete with that, handle that and the humidity. So the humidity is really, really tough because the body can't perspire, essentially. It just sits on the skin. But because of all the fire safety regulations, it's very difficult to find like a big solution. And if you think about, if you have someone who's displaying signs of heat stress, well, what you do is you strip them and you get cold stuff on their skin. And what they have in the car is complete opposite to that. So the race suit, made by OMP, obviously got all our sponsors on it, but its main job is safety and comfort in the car. So we have a freshie for every session. They're all having to meet FIA's fire safety kind of regulations. How they test them is they put them under a 700 degree flame. They expose them for, I think it's about 10 or 12 seconds. And then within 2 seconds, the flame on the suit has to burn out. The regulations have changed a lot in 2020 and then a lot in 2021 after Romain Grosjean's incident. Something like that you can't really plan for, ultimately very, very unlucky. But as a result of that, the boots now go higher to protect the ankles, and obviously the cuffs are a little bit longer as well. Particularly the gloves now, they go much higher than they used to. And they're also much thicker. So they used to be much thinner than that, but now they're cut, just the exits of the suit are a lot more protected. So balaclava, again, all made to measure for Lance's head, face. Nothing major to report here other than the fact that, again, new one for every session. So as you can see, lots of different safety measures now with fire safety and obviously the head and the neck that have been developed over the last 3 decades really. Without a doubt probably would have extended some people's careers and lives had they been in place originally, but the important thing is now that they are a focus and they're always trying to push them on to make it safer and safer. Hope you found this interesting, enjoyed looking through all of Lance's kit, and yeah, hope you have a great time at Canadian Grand Prix.